We're seeing a few thunderstorms start to fire and the enhanced risk remains in place. Hey, I'm Chief Meteorologist Tom Walks. 8:30 on this Sunday night, June the 26th. Let me show you the radar. You can see a couple of thunderstorms firing. Nothing too crazy at this point. However, that one east of Rice Lake is actually a pretty decent cell there. So let's go ahead and zoom in on that. There's Hayward to the southeast of Hayward there. So we'll be watching that as it moves southeast. That's of no immediate threat to southern Wisconsin right now, but you'll notice a few more storms firing near Duluth. Some of those are weakening, but then you look a bit more upstream and there are a few more starting to go. So I think this is the beginning now of the thunderstorm initiation. I've had several questions and I did a post on this as well as to why you need to be careful with your weather app, particularly the forecast and the future radar. Let me show you why. This is a classic example. So here we are about 8:30 at night. Thunderstorms are firing, right? Well, now I'm going to take you over to one of our high-resolution computer models. And I'll tell you, I really like this one. This is one of my favorite ones here. Let me kind of put this into a bit better view. So there's Wisconsin, and you can see the arrowhead of Minnesota. Now, not a terrible job showing some of those storms firing. So this would be for right about now. However, it hasn't really picked up on that one Wisconsin cell, and I don't think it's doing a very good job overall. The thought here is that this is more towards what it's showing for about 1 o'clock in the morning, midnight to 1 a.m., that we're going to start to see this growth over the course of the next few hours. So in other words, what I mean by that is the computer model is actually delayed by a couple of hours. And that's really important because if that is the case, it means that anything in weather apps is showing it too far ahead, number one. And then number two, it affects everything after that. So let's take a look. I want to show you the new data here, and I'm going to take you into the Wisconsin version of this. So I wanted to show you the Minnesota one just to show where those storms are initiating. Now we're going to zoom in. Let me recenter you here. So there you see Wisconsin, right? So this current model doesn't really have anything until about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning with storms up there. And then it moves this big line through at about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning with strong damaging winds. That could still happen. It remains to be seen if the current storms line up. But if this were to happen, and this is what I mean by these storms impact everything in behind it, well, now this model has a much more delayed start, pushes it out by early afternoon, and then the storms in behind it aren't quite as strong because the atmosphere has been worked over. Versus if we were to see the storms come in earlier, which may be happening here, where instead of it coming through at 9 or 10 in the morning, it's coming through at 3 or 4 in the morning, that would give the atmosphere more time to recover. So this also goes back to why you've got to be careful with weather apps. Because if now we could see this come through at 9 or 10 in the morning, if we do, it means highs will be in the 80s. If we see it come through earlier and we clear out, it'll be in the 90s. See what I mean? And then that is going to fire off stronger storms in the afternoon as some earlier model runs were showing. So what does all of this mean? I know I've talked a lot here. What this means is, number one, the enhanced risk is still in place. The Storm Prediction Center and the National Weather Service both saying the same thing, that this is the start here. This is the initiation point, that the model is running a bit behind here. So we need to very much use caution with that. So I do think we could have some strong winds, assuming these storms line up in the next few hours. I would say by 11 o'clock midnight, if we see it line up, it would move through Milwaukee, let's say 3 to 5 a.m., somewhere in that time frame. But again, we've got to watch it overnight as to how it develops. Then that round will dictate what happens in the afternoon. And there is a concern that we could have supercells in southeastern Wisconsin on Monday afternoon, sometime after about 3 o'clock. But if that line of storms comes through later in the morning, that lowers the afternoon risk. You see what I mean? But again, all of this ties into a lot of weather apps as well, which are model driven. So that's why you may look at a model app and go, it's showing nothing. Well, as we just saw, things are popping earlier than this model in particular predicted. So we just need to be very careful with that. So again, forecast is on track. At this point, it would be a very late night or early morning event for us. Stay tuned for updates here as we go throughout the night and throughout the day tomorrow as well. And again, tomorrow, once round one moves through, then the hotter, the more humid it is, the sunnier, if we get sunny tomorrow, the more severe those storms could be in the afternoon. And that's a little bit different. Tonight's storms or overnight would be damaging winds. For tomorrow afternoon would be tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds. So we'll be keeping an eye on it. Again, and I referenced this in another post as well, I know it's frustrating. We need rain. We need rain bad, 100%. And we could get some decent rain if everything comes together here. But also, I get it's frustrating that we have an enhanced risk. Nothing has happened to this point. I don't want anything to happen. I don't think any of us want anything to happen. But I get it almost feels like crying wolf, right? Where you say, well, we're calling for storms and then nothing happens. And I get it. And I don't want severe weather to happen. I'd like a good thunderstorm and I'd like some rain. But these are all ingredients driven. And I should mention this as well. Going back to the computer model data, and thanks for sticking with me this long, the one model that I've been looking at, which again is this one, it updates every hour. So what does that mean? So that means if it doesn't pick up on the storm initialization, it will pick up on it within the next hour or two because it's taking the current radar data. You see what I mean? So the model data will eventually become accurate because it's going to, as long as the model of choice for an app is picking up on that hour by hour, the one I'm using is, so it should become more accurate. It will pick up on it, and then once it does, we get a better idea of where it's going. So that's also what I mean by we have to wait until these form, because we have to see the orientation of them, and we also have to see kind of the movement of it as well. So once again, this is where we stand right now. Again, we are at 8:38. And this is where we currently have the storms that are, I would say this one is the most decent one on the map. The ones near Duluth have kind of fallen apart. Yeah, and look, now you have another little one kind of firing as well. Let me go to the local radar. And it's not, again, I got to be careful here because we're in kind of a radar no man's land. We talked about this last week when we had those little tornadoes up there. The radar is not doing a good job of picking up on anything closer to the surface, but those are still some cells popping. So the question is, does this become more widespread in the next few hours? That is what we'll be watching for. Please stay tuned for updates.